Okay, so how do you take geometry from another CAD system and bring it into Onshape? Okay, when the features don't come across from any CAD system to any other CAD system. And there are methods for taking CAD from another system, bringing it into your new CAD system, and then parameterizing it. And this is going to be a real simple effort in how do you get geometry out of SolidWorks, featured geometry out of SolidWorks, bring it into Onshape, and build a feature-based model inside of Onshape. So we're going to start from the basics. I'm going to go and import a step file. And your choices are, with step, it will honor the assembly structure. So if you export the top level assembly, you'll get sub-assemblies and you'll get the parts inside of those sub-assemblies. I'm not going to do that. I typically can build the assemblies better inside of Onshape. All I'm interested in is getting the parts. So from a top level, you can get all the parts inside of a project and ignore all of the assembly structure. I tend to prefer to do that. If it is coming in from SolidWorks, you will want to correctly orient it. SolidWorks Y is up and in Onshape Z is up. This will flip it so that the model is oriented properly. And then the other thing that you'll do is this composite body. If you download something from McMaster-Carr like a bearing and it has ball bearings in it, inner race, outer race, but in your bill of materials, you want that to be represented as one. That's what a composite part will do. Even though you download something that has multiple entities in it, multiple bodies in it, you don't want it to be represented as a subassembly. You want it to be represented as one part. This is mainly for your bill of materials. And if I click this, all of these parts would be treated as one. I don't want to do that. So Onshape is uploading it. Since this is the cloud, another processor is going to convert it for us, and then it's going to create a part studio. Here's the part studio. And it came in to Onshape. It does have all the bodies, and they're actually named properly. So this is a multi-body part, if you will, or inside of Onshape. We're in a part studio, therefore there are multiple parts. So instead of them being called bodies, they're now called parts, which makes more sense. Let's go take a look at the orientation. Surprisingly, I like the way this guy oriented this geometry. How he built it in his CAD system, the origin will come up in our system. And I like that this cylinder and the output shaft all intersect at the intersect. I don't have a problem with this. If I did have a problem with it, I would move and orient the geometry the way I would like it, because it's critical that you get your datums properly whenever you start a model. If I hit Shift 7, there's my ISO. That is what I would expect to see. Okay, so whoever built this, they did a good job. Now what I need to do is create features, right? Because right now this feature tree only has one feature in it. And what I want is I want all of the features associated with this. I'm going to rebuild this simple engine, and I want it to have all the features associated with it. So the way that I'm going to do that is I'm going to play a trick, and I'm going to use an assembly, and I'm going to use in context to cheat and build a new assembly based on the geometry that I imported. So I just need to get both of my new assembly and the imported part studio inside of the assembly. I need to create my part that I want to featureize, and I also want to bring in the imported geometry. It's probably easier to do it than to talk about it. Okay, so this is inside of a part studio. One of the things that you might want to do is, what I'm finding is that if I do have a part studio, really what it needs is its own subassembly. So let's go ahead and do that. And it'll make more sense here in a little bit. In fact, all of this is going to make more sense as things go on. In this, I am going to take all of these entities and I'm going to group them. So now they all behave as one. And then I'm going to go in and I'm going to fix this one. And you don't necessarily have to do this, but what this does is it prevents these parts from moving inside of this subassembly. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to create a new subassembly, which will now be my top level assembly. Okay. And let's just do some tab management because this becomes unwieldy if you don't. I'm going to call this components. And I really don't care where the parts are coming from. So I just shove them inside of a folder. And what I end up doing is I manage subassemblies. So I prefer to design in subassemblies. I really don't care that much about where the parts are coming from. So I'm setting this up this way. In my top level assembly, I am now going to go grab this assembly. And so I'm in my top level assembly, and this is the main reason why I do this is because it's one line item in my top level assembly. Okay. Had I tried to work here, all these parts, first level, and then my part, I don't like it that way. I don't like that structure. Typically what I end up doing is, here's my part studio. I will always take a part studio and have an associated assembly. And all it does is it collects all the parts in that part studio. Then I take that subassembly and I'll put it into my top. Because what it does is it keeps it clean. In my top level assembly now, I need to create my part studio that I'm going to feature, build feature-based parts from. So I'm going to create a new part studio, and I'm going to use the origin. And I'm ready to rock and roll. Probably should rename this. This is simple engine. And then to keep things, this is imported. All right, so let's go back here. So just always trying to keep things understandable for the next guy. So what do I have in this part studio? Absolutely nothing. So I need to create my first feature. So I'm going to create this block as my first feature. Typically what I would do, I'm going to skip it this time, but I'd probably start off with a sketch and I would have a layout sketch that would tell me where that crank pin was. I'd have a layout sketch that tells me how long the connecting arm is. And I would probably, look, this piston isn't correct. The model came in this way. And also the piston needs to be inverted. The file that we brought in is wrong. I'm going to skip that step right now. Maybe we'll come back and we'll add a layout to this, right? So the first thing inside of any assembly, you know what, let's just do it. It's better not to, it's not going to be very good, but anyway. So here it is. Let's go back to that. Okay, so let's create a layout sketch. A layout sketch would be something that looks like this, and it's going to go up to this wrist pin. Okay, and now with that being said, I can also say, oh, you know what, let's establish that, maybe 4.5. Let's establish this, 17. And then this needs to stay on top of that. So we'll put that as a vertical constraint. And you can actually see how badly the originating model is. Now with this, we'll call this the layout. What is this Part Studio supposed to do? And now if I move this, okay, that's what a layout sketch does, all right? And when I build this geometry, I should build it to my layout. If I change my layout, then all the geometry should update. And every Part Studio should kind of have a layout. As a designer, when I come in, the first thing I'm looking for is something called layout. I'm looking for a sketch up front, and I'm going to open that up, and I'm going to investigate that and try to figure out what this model's supposed to do. Okay. Let's go in and create the first feature. So let's go back to the sketch. My first feature is going to be based off of this plane, and create the sketch, and I'm going to create a rectangle. Square. I'm going to go straight on, and I'm going to put in a dimension, and I'm going to put in 18. And the original one kind of looks like they were a square, so I'll make these equal. And okay, we're running into problems here. This originating geometry isn't very good, right? Because my square is centered, their square is not. So we assumed that the model was positioned properly. This one is not. So before I'm going to continue on, I am going to go and I am going to fix my imported geometry. So let's go back to the imported geometry. Because I'm running this through an assembly, I can fix it here, or I can fix it in the originating geometry. So what the problem is, if I look here to here, and then if I look here to here, yeah, see, it's not centered. So I need to center this thing. So one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to fix everything in the assembly. I really don't care about imported geometry. So I'm going to float this, and now I can position this wherever I want to. Now what I need to do is to click on a midpoint inside of here. So to do that, I'm going to hide this part and see if I can pick up. What I need to do is I need to pick up a point in between here and there. So let me click here and here. And yeah, this is kind of crazy. So, okay, so I can do this. All right. So this is the manipulator, and I am going to tie the manipulator on this circle. And then I'm going to move that manipulator to the origin. That operation takes this, now it's centered, okay? The problem is I want this to be centered in this. So I need to manipulate this. So I click it and I'm going to move it. So I need a distance. So I'm going to take that distance. If you click on it, you get the whole distance. I'm going to Control C that distance. And now I'm going to pick on it and I'm going to move it. And now it wants to know, well, how much do you really want to move it? I'm going to paste it and I'm going to say divided by 2. And I'm going to change it to a minus. Okay, so what did I just do? Show all parts. I fixed it. Now I'm going to fix this fix. Typically, if it's a fixed part, I add it to the top of my tree just for standardization. This has been fixed. Let me go to this assembly. This has been fixed. Let me go to my top level assembly and I need to import my sketch. I don't want it to move. Let's go take a look at this. And it should be centered now. So let's go over to here and so this geometry is just poor. Let's say, okay, I got this. This is centered. Oh, you know what? In this top level assembly, it probably didn't come in properly. It's moved, so I'm just going to delete it, bring it in again. That way it'll put it back into the top level assembly again. There we go. And I need to fix this. Coming in, crankcase fixed. All right, I want to go and edit what I'm working on. Fixed. Change this to 19. Yahoo. Okay, with that, I'm going to extrude it. And I'm going to go symmetrical. And by how much? And you can actually move it. And that's about that much. So 19. Okay, new. Okay, I am going to now create this component, right? So we can go to the top level assembly. And I can go into Simple Engine. What is this thing? Okay, so that makes up the cylinder. So let's go build this cylinder next. So I'm going to go back into mine. Now I'm double clicking to get over here. Double clicking ghosts the original. And I'm now in this. So I need to create this piece right here first, because this is going to be a feature. And I want to select that top face. This is, if you use the tilde key, it goes into a selection and you can pick a face. Because it's actually selecting that face. That's not it. Face of in context. face of extrude. That's the one I want. It's at the top of the list. I'm going to create a solid off of that. Doesn't have to be created off of a sketch, from a sketch. I'm going to change that down to, well, we'll just drag it down to about where it's supposed to be. And we'll go to the front view. And that's not it. Let's say 3. That's not it. Let's go down to 3.8. Let's go 3.3. Let's go down to 2. 2.7. 2.6. There we go. 2.6. I do not want it to form, I do not want it to be connected to part 1. I want it to be connected to part 2. Part 1 is the crank housing. And part 2 is going to be the cylinder. I'm going to pick this. I'm going to create another sketch. I'm going to create a circle. Now the circle, I do want it to pick up the origin. Now that's a reference. So that center point goes to the origin. The origin is extremely high up in the tree. This origin's never going to change. So it's okay that I pick that up. Things that I do want to make sure that I don't pick up is the origin of this external reference. I don't want to pick anything on this ghosted model. It will allow that, but that actually will create an in-context reference. I don't want that, nor do I need that. I'll keep going over that concept, right? Designing in context does not mean that you're going to create in-context references. 20. Okay, if you get tired of guessing this stuff, you can just come over here and you can pick it. Diameter 15, and if you want, you can just Control-C it, come over here and paste it. Okay. That doesn't look right. What are you? Control-C that. And let's extrude that up. All right, so with that being said, and it does not appear to be locked down, so I'm going to move it around. So that's the problem. So just to keep it clean, I don't want that vertical assignment. I want it to be coinkadink. Now let's extrude it up. How high do we want to extrude it up to? $15.8. Escape. Yeah, this is probably designed in inches and I'm working in millimeters. It'd probably be better if I switched to inches, but you know what? I'll just keep copying these. So let's go, we'll extrude this up. And I want to add it to, and it automatically figures it out, how high up. I paste it from my measured value, okay? Let's go ahead, we'll create this. So plate up above. To do that, I'm going to get rid of this, and I'm going to take this face. I'm going to turn the cylinder back on, turn that off. I'm going to take this face here, hit the tilde key, go all the way up to the top, go all the way down to the bottom. Where did it put it? Sometimes it's at the top, sometimes it's at the bottom. Should be able to do tilde, face of context, face of extrude. It is always at the top. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to create another extrusion. And I do want to add it, but I want it to start. This one, the one on top always has to go further than the one on the bottom. So instead of doing this, I'm just going to go to blind. And I like dragging these handles so that it's close to what I want. This is the best way to figure out how this stuff works. And so this is kind of what I'm going for. And with that being said, this needs to start at this face. Hold the tilde key. You need to change to hold the tilde key down. And I want the face of the extrude. Oh, there it was, face of the extrude. So that's where it starts. And then I want it to be not blind. I'm going to say okay to that. I want to figure out how high up this guy is. So since I'm keying all this stuff in, I'm going to grab this. And now what I'm going to do is come back, redefine this, and I'm going to say this one is going to be up to face. Use the tilde key to do a selection, and I keep messing that up. Up to face. Highlight the box that accepts the face. Pick the tilde key, and okay, so now I've got a box of an extrusion. So I start from that face and I end at that face as 0 volume, and it's throwing an error. Why are you doing this? Well, offset from that distance. And the distance is going to be the measure that I just picked. Okay. So I got this and I never created a sketch. So what ends up happening in my particular design is this is basically now kind of sizing things up. And then this is the cylinder diameter. And I can come over here to this model and I can change the size of my model. And I can change the size of my model and then take a look at it and notice how everything on my model is updating. Okay, so these are tied to the original block. We'll go back to the original. Okay, now I need to create a new head. Okay, my geometry is greater.
Is it? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, what is that distance? Copy that. And paste it. Okay. Maybe what we should do, since we're in the cylinder, let's go grab the bore. So I'm going to go back to my assembly and I'm going to hide this so I can check out the bore. Ooh, whoa, there's a liner in this. Is the liner a separate component? So there's the cylinder. No, it is not. So typically this could be aluminum and this would be a steel insert. which is a bad way to do it these days. Everything should be aluminum and then you nickel the inside, but we won't get into that type of stuff. Harley guys don't like that. Harley guys like steel inserts. But as off-road guys, we like aluminum heads, cylinders, and with nickel. Anyway, so let's go back. We can insert some geometry if we want. Well, we don't need to do that right now. Let's just continue on here. So I need to put a bore in here. So let's go ahead, we'll add the bore. So I'm going to add it to this geometry. Actually, cylinder diameter, let's put the cylinder bore inside the cylinder diameter. And let's say cylinder, and we need to know what the bore diameter is. So we'll copy that and we'll dimension this and we'll paste that value in. Okay, now we got to go fix everything. So when I extruded this, I got the hole. And instead of doing it that way, on this sketch. Okay, so in this case, it's having a problem figuring it out because I got that ghosted shape in here. You can always right mouse click and you can say exit the context. So now what I want to do is I want to pick the sketch. Show me the sketch. There it is. So now that I have this island and this island, I guess they're regions, this region, that region. That changes this back to a solid block. Okay, so now it's solidified so that when I punch my hole through, I am going to create a new remove. And I am going to pick the sketch. That region, merge scope, you're going to go with the cylinder. And I want this to go through all in both directions. All right. Let's go back and bring in my there's my cylinder. Let's create this little boss doohickey here. To do that, you know what? That is 14.24. That is 14.24. All I need to do to create that is to go from here to there. And I'm going to add that. So one of the ways, let's do that cleanly. So this cylinder started from here. So from here up to here, that's the real distance that that cylinder needs to be extruded to. So we'll change that. So I'm copying that distance. Let's go take this and change that. Okay, now of course I put those up there, so that's kind of the wrong thing to do. So what I need to do is I need to figure out what this distance is from here down to here, and that is 4.9. And I need to change that definition because this, remember, is going up to that face. Offset the distance, and I'm going to offset that distance that far, change it, and so those references are the same. So that goes up to there. Okay, so it doesn't like that. So it just doesn't like that. So I am going from here up to there. Yeah. So this distance should just be a blind. Let's do it this way. Take that. Let's go in. Let's change that. So my second distance is now going to be blind. And I'm going to say that. Yeah. And then this. Change that. Yeah, that's not right. So that distance should be here and to there. So that distance to this distance is this. So my maximum extent goes from that, and it's going to drop down to that. And then this distance has to be less. So let's just drag that down. And to debug this, let's go blind. Position these relative to roughly what you want. Okay, and then if I want to make this cylinder bigger, now what I want to do is I want to say that this is, so there's that, okay. Whoa, what the hell am I doing? Oh, you know what? I don't even need this geometry. No wonder I can't figure this out. I don't need that anymore. That's the hole. That's the cylinder. No, I do need that feature. Why is it giving me a round when I truly want this? And so this needs to be less than that. So, okay, so now this is working. So best way to debug these and figure these out is to do blind.
So the pattern tool for the two underneath it,
Yeah,
or would that not be as interesting?
I will. If I ever get this piece working, I lost my. What am I using? So let's just cancel that. Let's go back in here. Edit this. I don't want that. I want this. This is producing that shape. That's pretty good. So really what I want is I want this to be tied to the top of that. So I am going to change this definition to go up to this face and up to this face and then offset down. Okay, that's cool. And then I also want this, at this point, I want this to be this thickness in the model. So let's change that a little bit. There we go. And let's say okay. How far down do I want? I want that. And I'm going to say that's the thickness of the rib. I'm going to come over to here. And I'm going to say I want you to go up to this face. Now that face is going to create an in context reference. So I can't do that. I wish that I could reference this face. So this edge has to be referenced from the top of that face, which that is not the value that I have. I want to be able to go from here down to here, and that gives me that distance. Okay, there. So, you know what, I'm not going to do it this way because I want this to be referenced and then I want to be able to use this. I'm not going to do that. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to take and I'm going to offset a surface, and I'm going to offset that surface. I need to know the distance. I want to do that. So I want to create a, what's a fast way to do this? I want this shape to go down, and then I want this thickness. So what I need to do is I need to move this surface, my reference surface, up to this distance and then add thickness to it. So let's try that. It's kind of funky, but let's just get this thing rocking and rolling. Okay, so I'm going to offset this face. What face? Not that face. Hit the tilde key. Drag all the way up to the top. That face. Change the distance. Fortunately, I don't know the distance, so let's see if I can query it. I want it to go up to this face right here. I don't know what the distance is, so the distance will be this to that. And now I have that distance. Okay. And while I'm at it, I want another face to go from down here. So I need to do another offset face. And I'm going to grab that face and, oh, that's great. I still don't know what that distance is. So I need to go from here up to there. And I want to make sure that I get that distance. And now we'll change that. So these are my offset, thin offset, and that goes up to there. Doesn't like negatives. There we go. All right, so now what's this thickness? And let's go ahead and we will assign that. So here we'll create thickness. And we'll paste it. And we'll add. And it's going to go to the cylinder. And likewise, we will add thickness to this. And it's going to go to the cylinder. And of course, we don't know how far. So we'll say 1 and flip it. Almost looks like it is 1. We'll go grab this one. And we will copy it. And we will go change this one. Okay. Now, since this is a pattern of ribs, what we should probably do, what if I wanted a bunch of them? So to me, I want to do this one so I can pattern it down and I can add more ribs. So to make that modification, we'll come over to here and we'll go to there. And I want to make sure that it's not a true distance. I want to know that it's a vertical distance. So we'll copy that. We'll come over to here, change this first one. No, we won't. We'll change this one to that. And that gets me to no negative distances are required or allowed. Okay, so I like that better because if I did want to make a pattern, a linear pattern, now I can grab this feature and the direction is downward by, let's say, 4. And we need to reverse it. And let's go down 2. And let's add multiple. Got a little bit of lathe work going on here. That's fine. So if you wanted that exact, you come over here, grab this dimension and that distance. And we'll just change the linear pattern. There we go. All right. So now let's go blast a hole through our part and surfaces. So we can just hide the surfaces. All right. Let's continue on. What's the next thing on the agenda? Let's, we could do that cap. Show all parts. Let's do this piece while we're at it. So let's come over to here. I'm going to grab this distance and I'm going to Control C it. I'm going to grab that. That extrude, and I'm going to extrude it. I'm going to add, and I want it to go that distance. No, I don't. I want it to be its own part. So there it is. Got that going for me. Now I want to create cylinder, tapered cylinder. So we'll grab that. We'll go on that. Now, I have to be careful what I'm picking because right now this would cause an in-context reference as this caused an in-context reference, which I don't like. And I want to know what the reference was. The reference is from the face of the context. So that's the problem. I want to kill this right now. So to kill this, I'm going to say, nope, I don't want you to be that as a reference. I want you to be the original. So let's go face, not in context. I want to find the face of thicken. There it is. So that is no longer a reference. I no longer have an in-context reference. I say, okay, this reference does not go away. I'm going to delete it. So you always want to delete them and keep your references. Let's continue on. So let's grab this. And I want to make sure that I get the right reference when I create this feature. Right now, if I create a reference, it's going to be in context, right? Because it's picking the ghosted part. If I click, oh, I want it, it's going to say, oh, what do you really want? And if I click that, it's going to create an in context reference. Because I'm actually creating a sketch on the ghosted entity. That's not what I want. I want to stop that. So I'm going to get rid of that. And instead, I'm going to say, you know what? I want to keep the ghosted entity. So I'm just going to hit the tilde key. And I am going to go to the face, which is this part face. That's the reference I want to make. So I'm going to go to a sketch. Now I'm going to create a circle. And the circle is coincident, right? So I click, I go that. I want to go how big. Put a diameter in, and if I recall, I do have that in my paste buffer. So there's that, and now I want to extrude it. And how far do I want to extrude it? About that far. Okay, I'm afraid of just keying these numbers in. That's why if people would work in millimeters, then we don't have this issue of trying to figure this distance out. This would have been a lot more fun if it was done. So I can go from here to there is 7 point, yeah, look at that. There's no way I'm going to key that number in. Let's paste that number in there, okay? All right. So the other thing that we can do, since it appears that this was originally drawn in inches, let's just go off and change our units to inches and see if this gets cleaned up. All right, so now if I want to know what the distance is from here to here, okay, this, who knows what dimensions these were in? Well, in a way that makes me happy because I don't want to work in inches anyway. That's the units my grandfather worked in. So let's be a little more modern than that. So this distance from here to there is that distance. I want to make sure that okay, so here's the problem. That's the reason why I wasn't there. The minimum distance is that. Nope, that's not what I want. I want to know, here's Y up here. So these are world coordinate systems. That's the one that I want right there. So I'm going to copy that distance in, go in here and change that. And show me the part. Okay, so now the other thing that I need to do is I need to add a taper to this thing. Let's see if the draft is anything that is a standard degree size. Something tells me it's probably some really crazy. "26, 27, 26, 27. Okay, so how are we going to figure that one out? So what is the angle between this and that face? And okay, so how do I figure out what that angle is? Da, 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 da. Let's come over here. I'm going to create a sketch here on this face, create the sketch. And I am going to hide this part. I am going to pick an intersection between that face and this face, and I am going to dimension between that, and I'm going to get that angle. Holy smokes. I'm going to copy that angle in here. I don't think that's the angle I want. That's not the angle that it's going to accept. So I'm going to delete that. I am going to put in a different angle from here to here. That's the angle right there. Actually, it's that minus 90. Where is that angle? So the angle of draft is, so here, let's take that, break that. Now I can move that. This is the angle that I'm looking for. That's the draft. No, it's not. Okay, so let's put in another line. Let's say you're horizontal or perpendicular. This is the angle that I want. Woo-hoo, finally. So I like that angle. I'm going to kill this sketch, which should, yeah. So I got rid of the in context. I come over to here, and there's no way you're going to be able to key that in. So somebody just fudged this. There's no way that this was actually engineered. Okay, with that being said, let's go create and extrude this. Since there are no distances in this, I need to go grab that minimum distance, which is true. I'll copy that. I'm going to take this, and I need to draw on this face here, and edge of extrude. No, I want face of extrude. I don't want that face. I want face of extrude. I'm going to, oh, you know what? I want to extrude that. So I'm going to come over to here, extrude how far, paste. Okay. So now we got that going. And so what is this? Let's exit out of the context. There's that. This is, what would you call this? This is front cover. All right, so now let's go put the head on here. So to put the head on, I need to go back and grab the assembly, show all instances, and that'll give me that. So let's go off and go back to my model, go back to the layout, exit the layout sketch. Now I'm back in here. I can create this shape by getting this geometry. So I need that length. I'm going to copy that length. I am going to take this, I want this head to start on here. So I'm going to create a sketch on, hit the tilde key, grab the face of thickness, and I am going to, I could do this several ways. I could actually just extrude that up. As you can tell, I don't like using sketches if I can get away from it. So how can I cheat? I'm going to cheat by creating a surface of 0 offset. So now that's just a copy of that surface. And let's just go ahead and get rid of hide all other parts. Okay, so now that I can actually deal with it, why didn't that part go away? Hide all of the parts. So I want this to be the head, but I don't want it to have any holes in it. So, but if I extrude this piece, exit context, if I extrude this piece, it's going to have the cylinder in it, and then I don't want to plug that in. So what I want to do is I can do this one of two ways. I can fill it in, or let's see if I can move this boundary. So I'm moving that boundary to the point where it fills it in. Another way to do this is you can add another surface to it. All right, so whatever floats your boat. I'm going to take this, I'm going to extrude this up, and the distance, it's in my buffer up. So now I got my additional part. It's a brand new part. This is now the head. Okay, and hide all surfaces. All right, so now what I need to do is show all the components, and I can put all that detail in without referring to the other part. So since I'm working on the head, I want to work on this as a reference. So I'm going to hide this for now, hide the cylinder, and I want to create a sketch on here. I'm going to create a circle because I need to create a cavity that goes inside. And now I'm going to show this, and I need to hide this head, but I need to look at the sketch. I need this sketch to go dimension from here to there. And who knows what this is, but we'll put a 0.2 gap. You know what, since this is a head and this is going to be in a lathe, I'm going to tighten that tolerance up. Right, this has to be a lathe part because that's how they're going to cut these in here. If it's in a lathe, then I can ask for this to be extremely accurate. That's kind of my thinking here. Let's invert that selection, turn that off. And with this, let's go ahead and cut this. So I'm going to remove that cylinder, take that up, not quite that far. Let's bring that down to right about there. Let's turn the cylinder on. Let's see if we can get a cross section going. Cross section in the middle of a command. I thought I could do it, but no, I can't. So let's create the cross section and go in and edit it. And where do we want that to go? So we need that to go. Now here, I do have local geometry, so I am going to say I want you to go up to this face. Of course, I can't get it. Head up to this face. And then I want you to be offset, and we're going to do our tight tolerance, and we'll toggle it. And we need to turn our head on, and there it is. So now I have a 0.1 gap around everything. Of course, where do I want to make my seal? I probably do want there to be interference here. So there you go. There's the interference. That's probably not too bad. If I'm going to have a lathe part, we'll tighten up my tolerance. There we go. So now I have a compression fit. This is the head. This bolts down. This is going to hit first. Okay. And let's turn this off. Where are we now? I need to put the hole in here. I don't know what the hole in the head is, so I need to go back, do some in context stuff, get back and exit out of this. What is the diameter of that hole? It is 1/4 of an inch. So we're not working in inches. So let's go back over here. And to blast this in here, I'm going to exit out of the context, come over here, create a sketch, put that in there, put a circle in the center. And I am picking up the reference down. Let's go ahead. We'll dimension this. And we'll put in 1/4 of an inch and we'll blast this through. So let's go. This will say remove. And this hole will always go through all, and then it automatically figured out the right scope. And now we got that. Okay. Let's put this in here. Hole for this shaft. So I don't know what that hole is. I need to grab that off of my assembly. So let's go ahead. Let's make it easy on me. I'm going to hide that. I'm going to transfer back and exit out of that. And now I need to hide this front cover. And I can pick up that diameter. And who knows what that is. So let's come over here. Let's bring back my front cover. Let's exit out of the context. We'll grab that, create a circle. Boom, boom. So what's my reference? My reference in this point is this edge. Okay. What's my reference? My reference is the origin and I'm vertical to it. So right now I have a choice. Do I want to work off of the origin or do I want to work off of this edge? I'm going to keep it local. I'm going to work off of this edge. And therefore, I'm going to be concentric with the edge. That makes sense. I'm going to put a diameter. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to paste it. I'm going to say OK. And I'm going to blast a hole through my cover. So I'm going to click sketch, go take the sketch. And let's go all the way through until you hit the outer boundaries of the part. All right. So how are we doing so far? I'm going to stop at this point and I'm going to clean up my feature tree. I've got some good names going on here. So one of the things that I like to do is organize. This is kind of like my intro into it. This has to do with my case. So this and this are case size crank. And then this all the way down to the bore. Is here. An easier way to do this is just to roll back up to here. Roll up to here. What do I have? What's this? Okay, so that is not part of the case. So let's grab this, and we will say, this is how I built the cylinder. And now we'll go down to here. Okay, so offset face, so there. So I got a small problem in my logic. So I came down here, and that's that hole. This and that really do belong up to here. Yeah, so let's drag those up to there, right? Let's go down, and this is really the front cover. And so is that one. And let's go all the way down to the bottom. So, no, let's not go all the way down to the bottom. What else is there? Is this all the head? So that generated that. That generates the inside compression boss. That down to that, and then this is the head. All right. So, how many hours has it been since we started this? A long time. I'm going to stop at this point, and this is the basic constructs. So let's go over what we have as a review, and then in another video I'll finish this guy up. So this is imported, and I need this. This is not centered. This is just geometry. I don't know that it really has any rhyme or reason. Let's take a look at it. It's not as good as what I originally thought. That's too bad, but we'll live with it, okay? One of the first things is I could have transformed this in this model, but sometimes when I import it, I don't want to mess with it, right? This is what I got. I'm going to use it in an assembly to clean this up. So let's go look at what I did. I created this simple assembly. Now, in a real project, I like to combine this subassembly to the originating part. So really, I don't even want to see that thing. So I'll put it in with this. And I always like the assembly before this. So this creates that. And then this is where I'm actually working in this point, right? So I'm actually trying to create this from imported geometry. Let's go back over here to the top level assembly. If we do want to see this part studio, let's go ahead and we'll clean this up, right? So to me, I never drag a part studio into my top level assembly. I am going to create a subassembly. This subassembly will now be called Simple Engine. Okay, now I have two simple engines. I don't like that. So this one really needs to be renamed to Simple Engine Import. So imported. And then, so now this matches that. So from here, let's go ahead and bring this in, insert Part Studio. So this is the one that I'm working on. I want to bring them all in. So I click this and I get them all. Okay. And I don't have to worry about this because my geometry was defined based on the coordinate systems. But these move, and I want to stop that. So the best way to do that is just to group them all. When I add the crankshaft and the piston, I'm going to have to include it in this group. That doesn't bother me. And then the main housing should be fixed. Okay, now what I want to do is I want to insert an assembly and simple engine. And this is how I'm doing, right? So I can hide the imported geometry, and I can bring, oh, this is my engine. There you go. So this is the imported version of it. Subtract it and bring it back. All right. So these are bizarre dimensions. What's a good way to bring in geometry? Probably another hour. I'll have the rest of this done and I'll have it up. But I'm going to break up the videos and try and do a little better job next go around. I've never built this before, so I'm thinking on the fly as I'm doing this. Thanks for watching.